Anyway, welcome. I'm Donna, the cake artist, and I don't normally teach, so this is kind of an odd thing for me. So I'm just going to go through what I go through every day when I make cake. So what I normally do is I have a cake that I bake the day before, and I put it in the freezer because it's the easiest way to work with cake. A lot of people think they can do it right out of the oven, which causes crumbling in the buttercream and all that kind of stuff. So if people tell you they don't freeze a cake, they're not telling you the truth. So what I do is I bake it and I put it in the freezer and let it sit out for just a couple of minutes to let it get a little bit at kind of a warmer temperature so I can cut through it. And I use corn syrup to hold the cake onto the cardboard. And it makes it a little bit easier. Some people use frosting and they can have it stick with frosting as well. Anyway, so what I normally do is when I put the corn syrup on it, it keeps the cake from moving. And then after that, I trim the sides. And if it's a round cake, I don't usually trim the sides. It's usually baked pretty well. But square cakes, especially when you're doing square cakes, you trim the sides and it just makes for a cleaner icing. Let's see, this isn't frozen, but that's okay. So I even cut the sides off that have been exposed to the freezer because it just makes it a little bit more, cuts off all the dry. But anyway, and my job's way more messier than hers. So then I split it. Usually, you try to do a balanced cut all the way through. And I apologize that I don't have everything correct. Then I take something called simple syrup, which a lot of people aren't familiar with. It's just basically a cup of water. You can put it in a microwave if you want, or you can boil it. And then you put like a half a cup of sugar in it, and you let it melt, and you brush the cake with it, and it keeps the cake a little bit moister, or more moist. My grammar's as good as yours. And then from there, I take a bag, and usually it's just, I make a European buttercream, which is basically a ton of sugar and egg whites, and then I put it in a double boiler and it melts down, and then I put it in a big Hobart mixer and I whip it up till it becomes a meringue, and then I add shortening, butter, vanilla, almond, and orange flavoring, and then I get a very light Italian meringue buttercream that Martha Stewart uses, so I feel very Vogue. So anyway, what you do is you put like a bead border on the sides initially, and the reason for doing this is that you prevent whatever filling is inside not to squeeze out the side when you go to ice the cake. And it's just a more protective way, so you don't have like, I'm going to fill this with fudge, and that way you won't have any brown coming out of the sides. You sure can. You're making cupcakes today, so you're going to have plenty of fudge. So I usually take a bag, and it's just an easier way to apply a filling if it's a small cake like this. See all this fudge? You can lick the bowl when you're done if you want. But anyway, I make the fudge from scratch as well. I worked at a European bakery down in the Bay Area for about 13 years prior to moving up here. And I have pretty much learned everything from there. And then you just squeeze the icing into the cake. And you can plop it in too with a spatula if you know. Usually I do, when I do wedding cakes, I usually do like 5 weddings a weekend. Doing it with a big spatula makes it a lot, faster, and but a small cake, it's a little bit hard to apply evenly. So you've got your filling in there. Then you take the cake, and I always check to make sure there's nothing foreign in the cake, because you never know. And then I just lift off all the excess buttercream. It's actually pretty simple once you do it long enough. It seems tough, but it really isn't. And then you take the bowl of buttercream, which you can lick this too if you want. And I just apply this on top. And you always want to have enough so you don't see any cake coming through. And I just slowly and with a turntable it makes it easier. You kind of spin the cake on the turntable and get the coverage that you want all over the top. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because once you ice the sides, you're going to go back over the top once again, and I'll show you. See how crummy this is? See, literally crummy. It doesn't work when the cake's not frozen. So then I ice the sides of the cake. And I'm not doing a traditional round birthday cake because I thought this design that I'm doing is pretty simple, and it can be for a birthday, it can be for Valentine's Day. It's kind of a fun little design that's really easy to do, and actually people ooh and ah because it is just so simple and easy and different. So just because this was smaller, I did it like this. So this is called a straight edge, and instead of using the comb that you usually see like at a grocery store, with wedding cakes and cakes like this, you literally just go across, and she stole my buttercream. Okay, you just wipe off the excess, it just, otherwise I'll make her florist shop a mess. Everything's sticky. And you just clean the sides of the edge. You can see that it just makes it real smooth and clean.
I kind of like that up and down one.
You do that a lot of times with whipped cream. You know, you can bag it on, and there's star tips and round tips and all kinds of tips that you can use to create whatever design you want. And actually, the wooden spoon has a great variety of tools, and so does Tess's with all the kind of little tools that you would need to make something creative. And so we're basically just creating like a little box. And then you go back to, and a clean spatula is really the key, always a clean spatula. And so then you go back over, which I was saying earlier, it doesn't really matter how you spread the top initially, because you have to go back over it when you do the sides.
Do you ever lick your fingers?
Never. That's why I'm so svelte and in shape. Yeah. Believe me, I eat so much other stuff. I just don't eat cake. Anyway, okay. So then what I do is I take basic ribbon, like she's got a ton of it, so you can pick whatever color you want. I prefer not a wire trim on it because it doesn't stick to the cake properly. It kind of has its own mind. So I just take the ribbon and I put it at the base. This is a little bit wide for this cake, and usually you put the cake back in the refrigerator or the freezer to get it cold, so it doesn't do this. See how soft that is? It just kind of grooves into the cake. But if after you ice it and you put it in the freezer for like 10 minutes, the buttercream becomes a little bit firmer and you can work with it easier, and then you don't have the indentation like that. Then I take a ribbon bow that I had made just a couple minutes earlier, and I do a little line like this, like it's a string tag, and add a tiny little dollop of buttercream. Go like that. Then I go and take my star tip, which it's not very easy to show you this way, but you just kind of, I'm not in the tape. You have to just do a shell border around the sides, and you'll see as I turn the cake around. You go up the side.
She's done this a little bit.
Yes. I do it a lot. Yeah, I do. Usually I use a smaller, more dainty tip, but the star tip's really easy to work with, and it just makes just like a little gift box. And when you go to serve it, everybody oohs and ahs, then you just peel off the ribbon and you can cut it just a square plain cake. That's easy too. With the fudge filling. And then I take just standard cardboard, I just use whatever, and I cut a little gift tag, just like, and you can do any shape you want. If you want to do a heart shape for Valentine's Day, you can. And I just do a little tag like that, and I apply a piece of tape on the back of it because buttercream has oil in it, and so it will seep through the paper, and you don't want to show the grease coming through. And then I just write, like say Happy Valentine's Day. I'll just do a heart. And then I take the black El Marco or whatever, and I do a little circle as if it's a little hole in the tag. See, so it looks kind of like a gift tag. And I apply it by putting a little bit of buttercream on the tape, so it's up off the cake and it kind of gives a little bit more dimension. And then I take the little white bag and I go like this through the hole as if it was a string coming through the hole. So it looks kind of like a gift tag. And then if you want, and this is entirely up to you, you can decorate it any which way you want. I brought little gold balls. You can make it look like wrapping paper if you want by adding, whatever little design you want. And then I brought hearts, and you could make it Valentine-y too if you want. Well, it's harder to apply. Sometimes you can use tweezers too to apply things onto a cake as your fingers get in the way. But you can see it becomes like a little, sorry tape, it becomes like a little gift box. And so that's a real easy way to do it. So in the meantime, Ingrid asked me to bake some cupcakes. So I baked 36 cupcakes. I did 24 champagne and 12 chocolate. And I brought just the buttercream and the fudge. And I'm going to teach you how to make a bag. And you guys can decorate your own cupcakes. And you can make roses if you want. I brought rose tips. And that's pretty much it. Okay? Thank you. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for us?